used has been atrocious. By process, I mean the process by which the accusations have been made. And we see this as a common pattern, as Layla was telling us, of politically motivated prosecutions where you have huge Justice Department press conferences announcing that a certain person is a grave threat to American security.
Late Friday night, and I mean late as in after the news hour, the White House released a statement by Hussein saying, quote, "I made statements on that panel that I now recognize were ill-conceived or not well formulated. I responded to comments made about the Al-Arian case by Layla Al-Arian, who was visibly saddened by charges against her father. I made clear at the time," Hussein said, "that I was not commenting on the allegations themselves. The judicial process in the Al-Arian case has now concluded, and I have full faith in its outcome," unquote. And about 15 minutes ago, Megan, we asked White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs about all of this, and he said the White House maintains its confidence in Mr. Hussein. Megan.
Interesting. That's news. James Rosen, thank you so much. We appreciate the explainer. For more on this, we're joined now by Frank Gaffney, who is founder and president for the Center for Security Policy, and Daveed Gardenstein-Ross, vice president of research for Defense of Democracies, who knows Mr. Hussein personally. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here. Frank, let me start with you. I just want to, just so our viewers understand, because we've been following this story carefully on America Live. Last Tuesday, we report that he made these comments in support of Al-Arian. The White House tells us it's not true. It was Al-Arian's daughter, and Rashid Hussain said nothing. We go back, we check with the author of the report. She stands by the report. Then the White House comes back to us the next day and says, he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember saying them. Then Politico digs up the audio tape that proves he did say this. And then he comes out late Friday night and says, okay, I did say it. It was ill-advised. Oh, and by the way, not only do I now admit to saying it, but I was the one who went back and had the original report scrubbed of my comments because they were taken out of context. So now, as of Friday night, not only does he now remember making the comments, but he admits that he had them scrubbed from the report. I ask you, Frank, does that not look bad for Mr. Hussein and, by extension, the White House?
This is all very troubling stuff, Megan. I think you're absolutely right. I salute you and James Rosen and Fox News for staying on this story. The only thing I would say is I think what this describes is actually only sort of a manifestation or a symptom, if you will, of the larger problem. The President, when he announced this appointment to have Mr. Hussein represent the United States at the organization of the Islamic Conference, he took particular pains to say this man is a Hafiz. That is to say, someone who has memorized the entire Koran. Now, there may be exceptions to this, but in my experience, nobody does that except people who embrace, who adhere, who subscribe to the program that we've talked about here many times, that authoritative Islam calls Shariah. And that is a program that is very dangerous indeed. It actually does support jihad. It mandates it. It requires it, whether it's through the violent form or, as many in the Muslim Brotherhood practice it, of the sort of stealthy form. And to have a guy who is not only going to be our representative to this organization that is all about promoting Sharia, but who seems to be a practitioner, an adherent, a promoter of it within the White House is even more troubling, frankly, than the story that you've broken here. And I think that they, too, ought to disqualify this guy from serving in both of these capacities.
All right, a lot of contentions served up in that, Daveed. I'm going to let you take those on. I know you know Rashid Hussain personally.
I've known Rashid for a dozen years, and the idea that he is a voice of radical Islam, as Frank is suggesting, and as the Washington Examiner also says today in a headline that's a little bit sensationalistic, is, to me, just not at all in character with who Rashid is. Rashid is someone who really is very liberal, and I use that not in the political sense, although he's liberal in that way as well, but he very much believes in the institutions of government that the United States has. He believes in free speech. He believes in the various values that we hold dear. Now, to me, the picture of Rashid that ends up emanating in this public debate is a very distorted picture. Max Boot, weighing in on something that I had written over the course of the weekend, I think said a very good thing, and Max Boot, like me, is on the right side of the political spectrum. And what he said is that a lot of times in situations like this, a good degree of humility is called for. The fact that I know Rashid does not make me the end-all and be-all in terms of judging him, but I can say that when we're looking at shadows of what somebody has said or what somebody has done, it's good to have a little bit of humility and to realize that maybe the picture that is being formed via the process of 24-hour news channels and blogs and the like isn't actually who the person is.
Well,
to
Daveed,
me,
you point out that he made the comments when he was 24 years old. But listen, I want to steer. I want to get back onto the events of last week because you tell me, Daveed. Does it appear to you that someone has lied, either Rashid Hussain to the White House or perhaps someone in the administration to Fox News? Because, Daveed, explain it to me. I don't understand how you go from I didn't say it to I don't recall to I did recall and I was the one who had the record scrubbed of the remarks, which I now am telling you were taken out of context. If he just had the record scrubbed to have his remarks removed because he said they were taken out of context, how is it he didn't remember and flat out denied even making the comments?
Look, I'm not a proxy for Rashid. I'm defending him against the very sensationalistic charges that have been made against him. If he did lie, it is my view, and I'll say this unequivocally, that if he did lie, I believe that he should resign. Now, I did speak to Rashid about this, and what he explained to me, and one can make up their mind as to whether this is plausible, but what he said to me, and this is verifiable, is that the comments he made were in the context of a panel that went from Sami Al-Arian to him. And he wasn't there to talk about Sami Al-Arian. He was there to talk about, instead, the process of selective prosecution toward the Muslim community. And he used that as a bit of a bridge. Now, what he says is that he had forgotten the specific words that he used. And to him, when he contacted the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs to scrub the record, it was because he thought that his comments were either something that he didn't said that was misattributed, or else they were taken out of context. Now, if he lied, then that's a big issue. But we don't know that right now.
You know what we're going to do, Frank? You are going to get a word in edgewise. This is important. I'm going to hold you guys over the break. We're going to pick this up immediately after this 3-minute break. Don't go away. We'll be back with Daveed and Frank. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Important debate over the man the White House has named to be the envoy to the Muslim world. Just to refresh you, last week, Rashid Hussain first denied speaking in support of the man you see on screen right, Sami Al-Arian. Al-Arian pleading guilty to supporting a terror group. We pursued the story, and Hussain then said he couldn't recall whether he had made those remarks or not. We pursued some more. Politico pursued some more. And Hussain ultimately admitted making the remarks after an audio tape surfaced. And late Friday night, he also admitted to having a reporter sanitize those remarks in an article about that speech, an article that relayed the remarks, in other words. If you look that article up online, it no longer has Rashid Hussain's comments in it. Joining us again, Frank Gaffney, founder and president of the Center for Security Policy, and Daveed Gardenstein-Ross. He's vice president of research for Defense of Democracies, and he knows Mr. Hussain personally. Frank, you wanted the chance to weigh back in. I give it to you now.
Thank you. Megan, what's worrying about this, as I said, is partly the sort of unraveling of the story as you've discovered it. It's partly because this is the sort of classic behavior of people who are members of or associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's what worries me most.
Tell us what that is.
The Muslim Brotherhood is a global organization that has affiliates in lots of different places, including quite a number in the United States. Mr. Hussain has been associated off and on with a number of them. But more to the point, what he says, what he writes, what he has advocated is of a piece with their view. And here's what's really troubling. The Muslim Brotherhood's mission in America, we know from a federal trial in which some of their fronts were prosecuted, is to destroy Western civilization from within. They have a 5-phase program for doing it, which starts with this sort of non-violent approach. And so to hear Daveed, who knows a lot about counterterrorism, say, well, we shouldn't worry about this because he's not a radical, he espouses non-violent, but under Sharia, the triumph of Islam, that's very troubling to me. And I don't think it's a qualification. And may I make just one final point, Megan, quickly, because you probably run out of time. The OIC, the organization to which he is being sent, is the antithesis of free speech. So when Daveed said earlier that, you know, this is all about free speech, we won't be able to have this conversation if a co-sponsored resolution between the United States, and I suspect Mr. Hussein was instrumental in getting the United States to embrace it, is adopted, and that's what's afoot now under the Brotherhood agenda.
I don't want to get too far off the beaten path, Frank.
This is really the path,
President
my
Bush
dear.
and President Obama both had envoys to that group, so let's not get off on a tangent. But
serious mistake.
But Daveed, Frank has made some serious allegations about Mr. Hussein and his connection with this Muslim Brotherhood. That's been percolating on out there. Do you want to respond?
First of all, I don't find the connections that have been made to be particularly troubling. If you look back at the Global Muslim Brotherhood Daily Report, which is the source that put forward Rashid Hussein's alleged links to Muslim Brotherhood events, a lot of them are respectable academic conferences. One of them is a 2000 conference at Georgetown University, and I spoke to other graduate students at Harvard University at that time, and they said that their academic advisors who were non-Muslims were advising them to submit papers to this conference. Likewise, another alleged link to the Muslim Brotherhood is a 2004 conference that was a respectable conference that he helped to organize at Yale. So there's not a reason to read Rashid Hussain through the lens of the Muslim Brotherhood. Another lens it can be read through, which I think is the easier lens, is the lens of a civil libertarian and a Democrat who supported John Kerry and who supports Barack Obama.
Okay,
now, I don't see eye to eye with Rashid on every issue.
Since you've spoken to
we would violently disagree on that.
Listen, before I let you go, Daveed, since you have spoken to Rashid Hussain, I want to ask you, did he have some explanation to you for his ever-changing story? For first, I don't remember, first denying that he said it, then saying he doesn't recall, and then once an audio tape surfaces saying, I do recall, and not only did I make the remarks, but yeah, I was the one who asked to have the record cleaned up by this Washington record.
Right, that's what I explained before. And as I said, I'm not a proxy for Rashid. What he told me was basically that his memory lapsed. He thought that Sami Al-Arian may have said it, or else he was taken out of context. That's what his explanation of the event is. I mean, I can talk about that at more length. I know we don't have much more time here, but he did give me an explanation. Ultimately, I don't know what the answer is there. If he did lie, I do consider that a big deal.
Yeah, I got to leave it at that, guys.
It is a big deal, and he should be removed.
We're out of time. But listen, thank you both for coming on. This is out there now. This story is out there, and there are more and more allegations being made, so we appreciate both of you being here to help us flesh them out. Frank and Daveed, all the best to you.
Thank you.